For centuries, the galaxy lived under the banner of peace. It was a peace carefully built, not from love or trust, but from rules and fear. The Galactic Council, made of the oldest and richest species, claimed that war was finished forever. They told the stars that violence was a disease humanity had once carried, but was now buried by their wisdom. Every child was taught that the dark days of battle were gone, replaced by harmony among the stars. The Council's fleets patrolled every border, not as soldiers, but as keepers of peace. Their ships were bright and beautiful, painted with the colors of unity. Their very design meant to remind all who looked upon them that the galaxy was safe. They spoke of fairness, of equality, of balance, and for a long time people believed. Trade flourished between worlds, markets filled with goods from 1,000 planets. Artists and singers traveled freely, spreading culture across the stars. Disputes between colonies were solved in grand halls with calm words and shining lights. It all looked perfect. To an outsider, the galaxy seemed healed, alive with hope. But beneath the surface, cracks existed. Some worlds whispered in secret. Some people remembered old freedoms that had been taken away in the name of peace. Whole civilizations had been ordered to abandon their weapons, to dismantle their defenses, to give up their pride. They were told it was for the greater good, but in truth they were left helpless. They lived under the shadow of fleets that promised safety, yet could burn them to ash if they disobeyed. The illusion of peace was fragile, like glass in sunlight, shining, beautiful, but ready to break with the smallest strike. Still, most of the galaxy slept in comfort. They enjoyed the silence of warless nights. They looked to the stars and saw only the Council's promise of safety. Children grew up without fear of battle. Their parents told them they were lucky to live in such a perfect age. For generations, people believed that this was the natural order, that no one would ever again dare to break the chains of peace. Then came the first whispers. A story shared by wandering traders and miners at the edge of the void. They spoke of a shadow in the deep black, a ship of iron and fire moving where no Council fleet dared to go. They said it carried a flag forgotten by history, a flag of blue and green, of oceans and forests, of Earth. At first, no one believed. Humans were only a memory. They had been absent from the stage of the galaxy for so long that many thought they had perished or hidden themselves in exile. To hear that they had returned was like hearing an old ghost had walked out of a grave. But the rumors grew stronger. The ship was not like others. It was not sleek or painted in bright colors. It was scarred, built for endurance, heavy like a predator. It carried weapons, real weapons, the kind the Council had forbidden for centuries. A warship in an age that no longer believed in war. Fear spread quietly. Some said it was only a tale to frighten children. Others warned that if it was true, the entire balance of the galaxy would collapse. After all, if the humans returned with their weapons, what would that mean for the Council's fragile peace? And then one day the rumor became reality. Sensors at the edge of Council space caught the signal first. A vessel of Terran design, enormous and scarred, emerging from the black. It sent only one message. This is the Terran Warship Resolute. Do not approach. The galaxy that had been silent for centuries suddenly trembled. The illusion of peace had been touched by fire. The story of humanity was no longer a whisper. It was real. It had returned, and nothing would ever be the same again. The first time the galaxy saw the Terran warship, it was like watching a storm crawl out of the void. The vessel did not glide with the grace of the Council's fleets, nor did it shine with polished metals and painted banners. It emerged like a shadow born from fire, its hull blackened and scarred as if it had survived battles too fierce to imagine. The ship moved slowly, yet with purpose. It did not drift as lost explorers did, nor wander like old trading vessels. Every motion spoke of discipline, of a crew that knew exactly where they were going and why. The Council's patrol fleets were the first to encounter it. Their captains had spent years chasing smugglers and pirates, not fighting true enemies. When their scanners lit up with the shape of the Terran ship, confusion filled their voices. The vessel was massive, heavy with armor, bristling with weapons that the galaxy had not seen for generations. The warship did not hide. It broadcast a signal across open channels. The message was simple, only a few words carried on every frequency. This is the Terran Warship Resolute. Do not approach. The words struck harder than any cannon blast. Entire stations fell silent as the transmission reached them. People froze as the name echoed in their ears. Terran, a word out of history books, out of forgotten legends. On a small agricultural moon, a farmer dropped his tools when he heard it. In the great cities of the core worlds, leaders stared at, their screens uncertain whether to laugh or to tremble. Children asked their parents who the Terrans were, and parents struggled to answer. For most, humanity was nothing more than a faded story. For the oldest species, though, the word stirred memories they had hoped were buried forever. The council chamber was filled within hours. Representatives of every great race arrived in panic, their voices sharp, their eyes filled with fear. Some demanded immediate action, others urged caution, and some, those who had studied the old wars, spoke quietly of the danger humanity had once posed. They should not exist. One elder whispered, "We erased their fleets long ago. How can one return now?" Yet the evidence could not be denied. The Resolute was real. Its signal was real. Its weapons, cold and silent though they were real. The council dispatched envoys, sleek diplomatic vessels that approached the Terran warship with bright lights and peaceful greetings. They carried messages of curiosity, of welcome, of warning. They asked the humans why they traveled armed, why they broke the law of peace that bound every other world. For hours, the envoys waited. No answer came. The Terran ship drifted through the void like a predator that neither fled nor attacked. Its silence was louder than any declaration. Finally, a reply came, spoken in a voice calm but unshakable. "We are not here for war. We are here because peace built on chains is not peace. We will not bow." The envoys returned shaken. Their reports spread like wildfire across the stars. The Terrans had not asked for trade, not asked for alliance, not asked for mercy. They had spoken of freedom, of chains, of truths the council had buried for centuries. And yet the Resolute did not fire. It passed colonies without harm. It crossed trade lanes without seizing ships. It ignored the council's warnings, moving deeper into known space, leaving behind only questions. Everywhere it went, people whispered. Was this ship a threat or a promise? Was it a relic of the past or the beginning of something greater? The galaxy, once silent and secure, now lived in uncertainty. Fear spread, hope stirred. The illusion of eternal peace wavered, and at the heart of it all was one warship, one crew, one forgotten people who had returned from the dark void. Humanity had made itself known again, and the galaxy could no longer pretend. The Galactic Council chamber was built to inspire awe. Its ceiling arched high, glowing with artificial starlight, while great banners of every major species hung above the delegates' seats. For centuries, this hall had been a theater of peace, where disputes were ended with speeches instead of battles. But on this day, the chamber trembled with fear. The word Terran hung in the air like smoke from a fire. Every representative had heard the signal, had seen the reports. A human warship traveled boldly through council space, ignoring warnings, carrying weapons forbidden by law. The illusion of peace was cracking, and no one knew how far it would break. Ambassador Rin of the Ashel, a species of wise scholars, rose first. His long robes dragged against the polished floor as his voice shook. "We cannot allow this," he declared. "A warship has no place in our galaxy. The Terrans must be stopped before they undo centuries of order." Across the chamber, others shouted in agreement. Yet some did not join the chorus. Elder Mile, a representative of the ancient Phelan people, sat quietly, his eyes dim with old memories. At last he spoke, his words soft but heavy with meaning. "You speak of order, but do you not remember what the humans were? Survivors. Fighters. They do not build warships for conquest. They build them because they will not live in chains. The chamber erupted in chaos. Some called the elder a fool. Others accused him of spreading fear. Yet whispers spread among the younger delegates, those who had studied fragments of history hidden in archives. The Terrans had once been small, fragile, yet they had fought empires larger than themselves and endured. Envoys had already spoken with the Resolute. Their report had been delivered, and its words echoed in every mind. Peace built on chains is not peace. We will not bow. Those words frightened the council more than the sight of Terran cannons, for they were not the words of conquerors. They were the words of rebels, and rebels, once awakened, could not easily be silenced. Chancellor Vera, leader of the council, slammed her staff against the floor. The chamber fell silent. Her voice carried authority, but even she could not hide the unease in her tone. The Terrans are a danger, she said, not because of their weapons, but because of their ideas. If their words spread, if our citizens begin to believe them, then the very foundation of our peace will collapse. The delegates looked at each other. They all knew it was true. Already, reports had arrived from border worlds. Colonists spoke the name Terran with curiosity, even admiration. Old grievances once buried under the council's rule were being spoken of again. People who had accepted silence were beginning to dream of freedom. A decision had to be made. Some demanded the Resolute be destroyed before it reached the core worlds. Others begged for negotiation, fearing the price of open war. And a few, only a brave few, wondered if perhaps the humans were right. Elder Mile leaned forward, his voice a whisper that somehow reached every corner of the hall. Perhaps it is not the Terrans who bring danger. Perhaps it is us. Perhaps our peace was never real, only a cage we forced upon the stars. If one warship can make the galaxy question us, then what does that say about the truth of our rule? Silence followed his words. For a moment, even the banners seemed to hang heavier in the air. The council had built its authority on the claim that war was over, that only they could protect the galaxy from itself. But now, one Terran ship had shattered that certainty. At last, Chancellor Vera raised her hand. Her face was hard, her eyes cold. Then we will test the truth. If the Terrans are harmless, they will surrender. If they are dangerous, we will remove them. Assemble the armada. Gasps filled the chamber. 1,000 ships would be gathered, the might of the council's fleets united against a single vessel. The decision was final. Fear had won. Far away, in the dark of space, the Resolute continued its silent journey. Its crew did not yet know that the entire galaxy's gaze was fixed upon them, or that soon they would be forced to prove whether their words were truth or only pride. And in that moment, the galaxy held its breath. The stars above the border world of Karen glowed quietly when the Council's armada arrived. It was the largest fleet assembled in living memory. 1,000 ships shining with banners of peace filled the void like a sea of fireflies. Their hulls reflected light with beauty, but beneath the surface they carried weapons powerful enough to erase planets. And at the center of this gathering storm drifted a single ship, the Resolute. The Terran Warship did not move to flee, nor did it prepare for battle. It simply waited, its dark hull scarred, its weapons cold but ready. To the Council fleet the sight was unbearable. Their pride was wounded. How could one ship stand so calmly against 1,000? To them, the Resolute was not only a danger, it was an insult to everything they claimed to represent. Inside the Council flagship, Admiral Serac gave his orders with a heavy voice. He had been taught all his life that peace was sacred, that the Council's mission was holy. Yet as he looked upon the Terran vessel, doubts stirred in him. The humans had not fired first. They had not attacked colonies. They had simply spoken, words that pierced deeper than any cannon blast. Still, orders were orders. His fleet had been commanded to confront the Terrans and prove their power. The first message was sent across the void. Terran vessel, you are surrounded. Power down your weapons and surrender. This is your only chance. For long minutes there was no answer. Only silence. Only the steady pulse of engines burning against the emptiness of space. Crews aboard council ships grew restless, watching, their screens waiting for the humans to speak. Finally, the reply came. A single voice, calm, strong, unshaken. If peace was real, you would not need guns to keep it. The words echoed across every bridge, every cabin, every heart. Some officers trembled. Some clenched their fists in anger. Others lowered their eyes, unable to deny the truth. Admiral Serac hesitated. The order from the council had been clear. If the Terrans resisted, destroy them. Yet something in him wanted to wait, to see what they would do. But fear is stronger than patience. A captain aboard one of the council frigates, too eager to prove loyalty, fired the first shot. A blazing spear of energy cut through the void and struck the Resolute's shields. The silence of centuries was broken. In that moment, the Terran warship came alive. Engines roared, weapons flared, and the ship that had seemed so still suddenly moved with the speed of a predator. The Resolute returned fire, not wildly, not in rage, but with terrifying precision. 1, 2, 3 council ships fell within seconds. Their hulls tore apart as if struck by lightning, their remains scattering into the darkness. Panic spread through the armada. Officers shouted, ships maneuvered desperately, but the Resolute was faster, sharper, more disciplined. Yet even as it fought, the Terran warship did not unleash chaos. It did not seek to destroy all before it. Every strike was measured, every shot chosen with care. It disabled weapons, shattered engines, crippled shields. It fought to survive, not to conquer. Still, the message was clear. Humanity had not forgotten war. From his command chair, Admiral Serac watched in silence as his proud fleet crumbled against a single enemy. His chest ached with shame. His mind filled with questions he dared not speak aloud. Had the council lied? To them all? Was their peace nothing but fear wrapped in bright colors? The battle dragged on for hours. By the time the order to retreat was finally given, hundreds of council ships lay ruined, their glowing banners darkened, their promise of peace shattered. And the Resolute still stood, scarred but unbroken, its flag of earth burning bright against the endless night. The test was over. The truth had been revealed. One Terran warship had stood against 1,000, and it had not bowed. The void of space had never felt so alive. The stars themselves seemed to tremble as the battle unfolded. Council ships, once symbols of peace, now blazed with energy, tearing at the darkness with the fury of desperation. The Resolute moved through it all with deadly grace, a single shadow in a galaxy of light. The first volleys had broken the illusion of control. Every council captain knew that their fleets were outmatched, not in number but in resolve. The Terrans did not fear death. They did not hesitate. Every maneuver, every shot was precise, measured, and devastating. Commander Alara, aboard one of the council frigates, could hardly believe her eyes. She had trained for years under the brightest strategists in the galaxy, yet she watched her ship crumble as if against an invisible force. Engines failed, shields dissolved, and crew members screamed over open comms. Yet the Resolute never fired blindly. It struck only what threatened it. It fought not for slaughter, but to survive. A beam of energy tore across the frigate's hull, splitting it in two. Alara barely had time to grab the emergency controls before the life of her ship faded into the void. Around her, hundreds of ships were burning, twisting, falling apart. She realized then that this was not just a fight. This was a message, one the galaxy had been too comfortable to hear. On the Resolute, Captain Harris watched calmly. His crew moved like a single mind, each action anticipated, each strike purposeful. They had not sought this confrontation, yet they were ready. Humanity had built this warship not to conquer, but to remind the galaxy that peace without strength is a lie. Still, despite the carnage, the humans never wavered. They did not celebrate, they did not mock. They simply moved through the void like a storm with a purpose, leaving the Council fleet broken and terrified. Across the battle, alien commanders yelled orders, trying to regroup. Some of the Council admirals had been so confident, certain that numbers alone could crush a single ship. Now, as they watched their forces collapse, disbelief turned into fear, fear into desperation, and desperation into chaos. The Resolute disabled a massive dreadnought with a single well-placed shot. Its hull buckled, weapons exploded, and the ship's glow dimmed as it drifted helplessly. There was no cruelty in the attack, it was simply precision. Every strike was a statement. We do not fight because we want to. We fight because we must. By the time the battle ended, only a few of the largest Council ships remained operational. The rest were drifting wreckage, flaming reminders of how fragile the galaxy's so-called peace truly was. And in the center of it all, the Resolute floated silently, its engines burning steadily, its flag of Earth proud and untarnished. Admiral Serac, watching from the command deck of the remaining flagship, could hardly breathe. His chest was tight with shame and fear. The fleets he had once commanded with pride were gone, hundreds of lives lost. The illusion of power shattered in hours. Yet even in defeat, the Terran Warship offered no further destruction. It did not pursue the fleeing vessels. It did not hunt the survivors. Its presence alone had proved a point far stronger than death or conquest. The message was clear to every sentient being who had witnessed the battle. Humanity had not forgotten how to fight. They had returned not to conquer but to awaken. The galaxy could no longer sleep under the lies of the Council. In the endless black of space, the Resolute drifted forward, undamaged and unbowed. A single ship that had changed the course of history. The fire in the void had ended, but its echo would ripple across every star, every planet, every mind. The galaxy had seen truth in steel and fire, and it could not look away. One warship, one crew, one truth, and the illusion of peace had burned away like starlight through a storm. The Council chamber had never felt so heavy. The walls that once echoed with pride now trembled under the weight of silence. For the first time in centuries, the leaders of the galaxy did not speak with authority or certainty. They did not carry themselves with confidence. Instead, they sat, staring at their screens, at the reports of fleets destroyed, at the images of their greatest ships reduced to drifting wrecks. The Resolute had vanished from the battle zone, but its impact lingered like a shadow. It had not sought revenge, had not claimed territory, yet it had shattered the Council's illusions. Every species represented in the chamber felt it. Their power, their control, their sacred peace. It was gone. Ambassador Rin of the Ashel could barely hold himself upright. His species had prided itself on reason and wisdom, yet reason had failed him. The humans had proven that words alone could not enforce peace, that strength, courage, and truth mattered more than decrees or banners. Across the chamber, Elder Mael of the Valen looked on quietly, his expression calm but sorrowful. He had warned them, had reminded them of humanity's legacy, yet none had listened. Now the galaxy faced the truth too late. The illusion they had clung to for centuries lay in ruins, and no argument could rebuild it. Chancellor Vera rose slowly, her staff tapping the floor. Her face was pale, her voice hard but trembling. "We built a peace the galaxy never asked for," she said. "We silenced those who disagreed. We painted freedom with laws and called it unity. And yet one ship, one human ship, has shown us the truth." Her words struck like thunder. Delegates looked at each other with fear and confusion. Some wanted to deny it, to pretend the battle had been an accident, a fluke. Others could not. They had seen the destruction, felt the fear that had spread through the galaxy. They knew the humans had proven something that could not be undone. Outside, the chamber, systems that had once relied on the Council began to stir. Colonies whispered in the markets, in the streets, on the transports between worlds. People who had once obeyed laws without question began to question, to challenge, to speak. Old grievances, suppressed for generations, rose like flames in the hearts of the oppressed. The galaxy had awakened. Even within the Council's fleet, survivors returned home changed. The officers who had once believed in their sacred duty now saw the cracks in their armor. They had been taught that humanity was gone, that peace was absolute, yet here was proof that neither was true. Reports arrived from outer worlds, trade fleets refusing to follow old orders, colonies raising new flags, and citizens demanding the truth about the Council's centuries-long control. The illusion of peace was gone. It had burned away under the shadow of one warship. In a small observation room aboard her flagship, Chancellor, Vera watched the stars. The void seemed darker now, endless and unforgiving. She understood what had happened. Their authority was broken, their pride exposed, and she feared the next move of the humans, for she knew they would not be idle. Then came a message. Not a threat, not a declaration, but a single, simple statement broadcast across every frequency. Peace without freedom is not peace at all. The word spread like wildfire, reaching every system, every heart, every mind. Fear turned into awe. Awe turned into understanding. And understanding changed everything. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy realized that its golden age of peace had been nothing but chains disguised as light. The humans had shown them the truth, and now, no one could close their eyes. The Reich Council was shattered, not by fire or weapons, but by the courage of one species who refused to bow. And somewhere in the darkness of space, the Resolute drifted onward, leaving behind a galaxy forever changed. The stars seemed brighter that night, but their light no longer brought comfort. It brought awareness, and with it the stirring of freedom. The galaxy did not sleep that night. Even in systems far from the battle, stars seemed to burn brighter, sharper, as if the universe itself had woken from a long slumber. On countless planets, beings of every shape and color paused in their daily lives, sensing a shift in the balance of power, a truth that could not be denied. The Council no longer held sway. Its fleets were shattered, its fleet scattered, and its voice weakened. Once proud leaders moved quietly, their authority questioned, their words met with doubt. Fear and uncertainty replaced the confidence that had lasted for centuries. And, yet in that same fear, there was a spark, hope. For the first time in generations, the galaxy realized it had been living in an illusion. Peace had been a cage, gilded and polished, but still a cage. The humans had reminded them that freedom could not be silenced. That strength alone was meaningless without truth. And now every species, every colony, every citizen faced a choice. Continue in quiet submission or rise and claim what had long been denied. In the outer rim, a young trader named Ellen watched the stars and whispered the word that now carried weight across every world: Terran. She had heard the stories, half-forgotten legends of humans who fought empires with courage alone. But now, knowing that the Resolute had faced 1,000 ships and survived, she felt a fire stir in her chest. Perhaps freedom was not a dream. Perhaps it could be real. Meanwhile, the Terran Warship continued its journey through the void, moving silently yet with purpose. It did not celebrate victory, for humanity sought not conquest. It did not demand tribute or obedience. Its presence alone had spoken louder than any speech or decree. Captain Harris, standing on the bridge of the Resolute, gazed at the endless stars. He knew that one ship had already changed the galaxy forever. Hundreds of systems now questioned. The Council. Countless hearts had been awakened, and yet he also understood that the journey was only beginning. Humanity's message would spread slowly, patiently, like seeds scattered on winds of change. On planets near and far, whispers became conversations, and conversations became movements. People who had once bowed to laws and fear began to speak openly of freedom. Colonies that had been silenced for centuries raised new banners. Entire fleets refused old commands, questioning the authority of leaders who had claimed to protect them. And everywhere, the memory of the battle lingered. The image of a single warship standing against 1,000 remained burned into the minds of those who had witnessed it. The Resolute had not only survived, it had shown what courage and truth could do, even against overwhelming odds. In the council chamber, silence reigned where once there had been pride. The leaders of the galaxy no longer claimed to hold the future in their hands. Their illusions were gone, replaced with the bitter taste of reality. They had been shown that power is meaningless when it hides lies, and that fear cannot create loyalty. The stars themselves seemed to pulse with possibility. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy had a choice, a future that had not been dictated by the Council, and somewhere in that vast expanse of darkness the Resolute sailed on, carrying not just weapons or steel but a symbol, a reminder that courage, truth, and freedom could never be silenced. Ellen, the young trader, looked at the sky and whispered, again this time with certainty, "One ship can change everything. One people can awaken a galaxy." The humans had returned. They had reminded the galaxy that peace built on lies is no peace at all. And now, every star, every world, every mind was alive with the possibility of something new. A future written, not by fear but by freedom. The galaxy had been welcomed by the illusion of peace. And then humanity arrived. The illusion was gone. The truth had arrived, and it burned brighter than any star. The void was silent again, but its silence was different now. It was full of promise, full of wonder, and full of hope. The age of the Council was over. The age of awakening had begun,